consultants of ACT team that is also working on this Amazonia project. And Karen already said it. We will talk. ACT will more for today. Will focus on the Ranger program. So without further ado, we can continue to what we always been saying, and as a motto, partner with indigenous people and other communities to protect the forest and strengthen their traditional culture. This is very important because without them on the ground, you cannot protect the surroundings and the forests that entire the whole backland of Suriname. They are the one there on the ground, and is their living area, is their place where they can shop, where they do everything. So yeah, indigenous people and tribal communities, those are the one you need to protect first to protect the forest. Our vision as ACT is that we see the future where healthy tropical forests and thriving local communities exist in harmonious relationship with each other. This is contributing to the well-being of the planet. We are fighting climate change, and I think this speaks for everybody. If you have to do a little bit about conservation in the green world, then you are all contributing to the well-being of the planet. Our goals as NGO is that we have a vision. The forest ecosystem is healthy and robust, where we see that as an end result, and the community achieve and maintain their desired state of well-being. So what I'm presenting now is our objective, our goals, our vision as ACT. We have other things, but this is what speaks the most. And the others that we have 4 teams that we are working on, and that is community, governance, culture, knowledge, sustainable alternative livelihood, where we support the community in getting some cash flow to compete with Western, to buy stuff, and all others. The last one is the sustainable environmental management. So with community governance, we aim to strengthen the traditional traditional leaderships, the decision making, are also support them with additional data throughout their collaborators that has been working for a long period with us, and benefit sharing and distribution. That's for the community governance. Cultural knowledge system. We have the Shaman Apprentice program, establishing the traditional clinics, community exchange, oral history, and the Rangers program that is on the scope of the environmental management, where we do the Ranger program, territorial mapping, and community-based monitoring, for short CBM. And after that, then we have the livelihood systems, where we support art and craft, stainless bee project, pepper production, sustainable energy, clean water, and waste management. Here we can see the places where ACT is working on. Project site as of 2020, Kwamala Semutu, for the viewers or audience that wants to know a little bit more of the places where we are working in. This is Suriname. This is the south of Suriname. This is Kwamala Semutu, the village, the area that we are working in. Followed by Tepu. Alala Padu is right here. Needs to be updated and be colored also. Apatina, Sipaliwini village. Kuruni, and the tribal community where we have the Maroons, Matawai, Gononimofo, and Boven Suriname with some villages in the river sides, Pamboko and Langu. So these are the places where ACT and community are working together to 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 give let's say where we can meet each other in our strategy and also support the community with it. Next is the same slide but a little bit different, where we separate them in watersheds, where we have three main watershed where we are working in. We have the Kuruni watershed, where we have the villages Kwamalasa Mutu, Kuruni, Alalapadu, Sipaliwini, and also identifying the watershed of the Trio tribe. Then we have the watershed of the Wayana tribe, that is the Tapanahuni watershed, where Apatina, a bit of Tepu, and Goninimofo includes these villages. And then the Saramaka watershed of the tribal, the Matawai tribal communities. And in each of these watersheds, you can see all our activities in the legend on top of the map: biodiversity monitoring, collaborative mapping, handcraft and sustainable income, etc. And to give a nice overview, all these watershed has their task and objectives. So like I said, I will focus more on the Ranger program. A little bit of history, how it started. It started with mapping. Not just mapping, but participatory mapping. And it started in 2006. Before, within this time, we had no Ranger program. Just the community participating with the NGO to map their ancestral lands. The participatory mapping process contributed to the cultural strengthening and defense of the indigenous territory and political rights. This is important for Suriname because we don't have formal land rights as, to ancestral lands for tribal communities and for indigenous communities. So on these first maps, we have several thematic maps created that includes land utilization, potential risk and threats, future settlement and trails, areas requiring protection for cultural, environmental, or economic reasons. This is all hand-drawn and hand-drawn with support from the NGOs that was busy doing this. ACT initiated together with the first in Kwamala, and where community came together and started drawing how they see their land on a piece of big white paper. Continue working, the first the digital map came to be, and this is how the end product of community participatory mapping came as end product. And some more examples of maps that was done by the communities itself. And we have the Trio land map and the Wayana ancestral lands also. So that's how the mapping came into place from 2006 to somewhere 2008, whereby we started the Ranger program with more technology coming on board, and they got to see more real-life satellite images and updating already the existing map that was done in 2006. So this is then an example, recent example of how community mapping with technology came to be in place. That was also shared with the tribal communities, whereby they started to map their ancestral territories. This is the Matawai region that you are seeing on your screen, and where I'm mostly active. This is the Saramaka watershed, the watershed of the Mauti warriors. That's the correct name of the tribal community that is living there. And they are settled in 10, they have 10 villages, making them one whole community. Those 10 villages are Beital, Pusugrunu, Tafreda, Sukibaka, Pieti, Padua, Boslanti, Pertrowo, Pinyel, and Wanhati. So after they have contributed to the mapping, they have zoned their areas because their living area, because they got a community forest where they can work in. They got it in 2015, and it was necessary to zone the area to see where they will designate some parts of the forest to be reserved, to exploit, to keep as tourist attractive place, and also their boundary of where they can do agriculture and such. The program in this zonal classification was extended with wildlife monitoring in the rangers program, sustainable forest management, that is the primary activity in this Matawai region because of the community forest where logging activities is at its highest peak. In the sustainable forest management, they had training in the code of practice that was carried out, and all that is geared to the national forest monitoring system. So a little bit about the rangers program in Matawai. I will focus a little bit on Matawai. Is that we started in 2016 and 2016 with forest training, the use of forest instrument, whereby they can use the compass to set out lines for monitoring plots, using the clinometers, setting up wildlife cameras, and the use of GPS in combination with maps. All these equipments are necessary as a tool package for these rangers to monitor the first steps to monitor their community forest on logging activities. The training proceeded now with a little bit more technology, the use of processing data throughout downloading the GPS data. And as you see on the screen, it's a little bit hectic with GPS data, as we all know that this data first needs to be processed and checked for not double datas, and removing tracks, removing waypoints, and let them process the data, teach them how to process the data, what they want to show the community or external. Further, to as another step up, we teach them how to use the most simplest way to see their data that they have been gathering on Google Earth Pro. Is the easiest way to show these guys is what your data looks like when you have downloaded on Google Earth Pro. So they have been trained also to do that and to do their own analysis to see first time how technology is combining the ground truthing. Further, we graded up their training in the use of linking with Global Forest Watch, where they can see real-time alerts on threats that is happening to their on the ground, happening to their community forest. If you all know a little bit about GFW, all those pink dots are GLAD alerts, where you can get an alert of the tree cover loss of 30 by 30 meters. And that was upgraded in their package also, together with Forest Watchers app on their mobile. The combination of using the platform, viewing the data, getting the data that they need to go to the forest and check these alerts was all done with the Forest Watchers app. And in day-to-day activity of the ACRs, after getting the training and on the job, supporting them also on the job, going to the forest, they analyze satellite images like this one we have on screen, where they see inconsistency of tree cover loss and roads being built on satellite images, linking that with GFW platform and getting the GLAD alerts, getting the information onto their to their Forest Watchers app on mobile, going to the forest and do actual ground truthing, seeing for real what's happening to their forest. Not just by going there and looking and taking pictures, but they have additional tasks. They are doing actual measurement on forest harvest intensity, because data that is coming out from the loggers don't reflect back to the community. So they are gathering those harvest intensity data also to show the community what's happening with how many cubics of logs is coming out of their forest. After collecting those data, whether it is weekly or a day or monthly, they do some small analysis also. This is just an example on skid trail alignment that they are recording. In the red, you see how the skid trails are going about in the forest. Recording the tree cover loss per acre and the harvest intensity also being recorded and analyzed. In this small example, you got 55 cubics per hectare. I am not obligated, in fact, to share this data because the traditional leader did not give consent yet to this data, but I feel to share this with you guys on the platform. And the waste that is left behind also, the rangers are calculating and processing those data. So yeah, that's in the Matawai region, where these trainings and updates are really necessary for their community, because they have a direct threat on their forest. Sustainable forest management speaks more to the rangers program in the tribal community of Matawai. The trio community, on the other hand, they don't have a direct threat of logging activities, because their region is not accessible by land like the Matawai community. You can only access the area with air flights. So the rangers program in the indigenous community is more focused on monitoring wildlife, water, and waste management, and supporting all other activities of ACT on the ground. The ranger program, in fact, is cross-cutting throughout the whole strategy of ACT. In all those four strategies, you can find a ranger helping out in the day-to-day task. This is an example of the in the village Tepu, where they got their training in the use of computer and using Excel and Works to enter data and write reports, with also internet connection, use of internet to communicate with us in Paramaribo. Wildlife monitoring is primarily also on top of the rangers program in the south within the indigenous community. All the indigenous community in the south, we are monitoring wildlife. The data are being gathered, and we have no expertise in wildlife data processing, but we are working together with our university here in Suriname. They are processing the data for us and having reports after submitting some photos and additional data gathered on wildlife. Also with the ranger program in the indigenous community, they are collecting agriculture data on cultivation plots. Within this photo, you see the rangers active in collecting data for the cassava rot disease, where we are working also with the university and data processing, not only in the cassava disease, but with ant. They have lots of problem with ant called ant colonization and destroying their crops. This is the opening of an ACR station in Kwamala, Samutu, in the village Kwamala, Samutu. They had an existing one, but after 2014, we started again in this village and contributing to upgrade them again and giving them a infrastructure on how to support the program. A little bit of exchange, because the first participatory mapping was done with the indigenous. The knowledge is already there. So on map, on not on map, on the screen, you are seeing one of the first IPs that is using the GPS to collect data in the fields, and that's 2005. And in 2015, that same guy is transferring his knowledge, exchanging his knowledge in the Matawai region, where they started the participatory mapping in 2016 or in 2015, 2016. So back then already we connected the exchange with tribal and IP indigenous peoples. Again, the same guy showing off his product, where he got the update, and also sharing his knowledge in the update in the use of modern technologies, just not just the GPS, but also in line with the maps. A step further with the community monitoring is the exchange of knowledge. In this, we want to reach that the tribal communities of Matawai have a little bit more experience in monitoring their forest, sustainably monitoring their forest on wood or harvest of their trees. They have more experience. So Matawai region, we are using also or joining in the forces to teach the IPs, the communities in the south, what's happening on the ground with community as example, and also teaching them how to use the new technology that is being used in Matawai, because it will link also to the IP villages. Here you see some examples from the last exchange that we did in collaboration with WWF and Guyana, where we have SBB, our Forest Foundation, giving a little bit info and use on the geo portal that we have, the Gonini geo portal. Everybody has access to this and see what concession is near their villages also. So Ranger giving a demonstration to the IPs how to use the ODK and the Forest Watcher app, where you can get on the field a conversation ongoing and exchange ongoing with these guys. That's a little bit in our Ranger program. What I can say now, how we link with Amazonia 2.0 is that we want to be more, we want to deliver more products or be more active on the National Forest Monitoring Platform. That is where all our forest monitoring activity is geared to. Up till now, we have no 100% success, but we are breaching. With Amazonia, we have 2 consultants on board that will give a quick outline for us or a report on what needs to be done, or they are checking out what's the next steps or what still needs to work on, where we still need to work on. I hope I have shared. There is plenty more to share with you guys and on the Ranger program, but this is basically hot topic now before Corona, where we were working on. So at the moment, we are just pushing papers. I thank you. If are any questions, I am ready for those.
Excellent, Johan. First, thank you very much. Very interesting experiences. So now we're going to open the floor for any questions. Please, if anybody, so we can have like a way of passing the word. If you can write a message in the chat, and then I'll start giving you the word. So there's a first question from Paulina. Do you want to do it? You can turn on your audio and you can do it directly. And then please write me if others have any questions as well or comments.
Hello, Johan. Very interesting your presentation and the experience that you have. I have a question. In Mataguay area, the logging is legal, or also they face illegal activities?
The logging area is legal. They have a community license, and according to what is to the license is that they can exploit the forest, and they have been contracting multinationals to do the logging, but doesn't reflect back to the community. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, just a clarification. So the monitoring that the rangers do is to the logging is according to the permits that they have to do it a legal activity?
Yes, the monitoring they do is extra, because the activities that are being going on, those data doesn't reach the community when asked. So from out the community, the ranger program support to additionally go into the forest and check out what is being going on the ground real time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paulina. Carmen? from Ecociencia also has a question. Do you want to do it with your audio on, Carmen?
Yes, thank you. So very nice, very interesting your presentation, Johan. Congratulations. I still have questions a little bit in the same line that Paulina had. So trying to understand the permits for the logging are given to the community. That is what you said, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and all this monitoring work that you are doing and the additional data is just additional data because, let's say, the law or the requirements for the logging concessions do not ask for all of that information, right?
I would
Or,
say half correct.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, go
Okay.
on.
No, and probably my other question was related with benefits from the logging, right? I mean, that timber is sold, and what are the arrangements within the community in terms of you know, sharing the benefits, sharing the income. And also my question, or I am interested to know how the community gets to agree on what is the, you know, the number of trees that are going to be logged and so forth in a given period of this legal logging permit.
Okay. For start is when we say community in Matawai, it is the community, but the body in fact that is taking charge of these activities are the traditional leaders, and the traditional leaders has the most saying in it. They have the last word, and they do monitor the benefit sharing, and how that benefit sharing is in place should go according to the government that also has his stake in this on contract, what the points are on benefit sharing. I cannot give clear answer to if they do share the benefits or if it is being deposited in the bank. That the traditional leader is not very transparent on that part, because we already asked if part of the income is going to the community. But being on the ground there, we are not seeing that it is going or benefiting the community. We have 10 communities in the Matawai region, and we haven't seen any explosion of benefit that is on the ground. So it is legal to harvest in that area, but is the monitoring being done correctly? If we are looking at just the GFW platform, you should not see so many alerts coming about. And why is part of the community itself not happy with this activity? Because they are not seeing, or they are not seeing the things back into their community. It's just being one-sided. At least that is what I can see what's happening in the Matawai region. That's why one of the main objective on Amazonia also is to collaborate better and to get a structure in place with the Matawai traditional leaders. And it is politically linked.
I understand. Thank you very much, Johan.
Excellent. Thank you, Carmen, for the question, and also Johan for these answers. So we have, following up, we have Pedro from Peru, from Ecorred. Then we have Rebecca, and then Victor Manuel from Colombia. So go ahead, Pedro. The floor is yours.
Sí, gracias. Buenos días con todos. Felicitar primero a Johan el trabajo que vienen realizando desde el 2006 y la información que han levantado en el tiempo es muy valiosa, muy importante. Tengo dos preguntas. La primera muy relacionada hacia las primeras que le hicieron sobre las actividades ilegales que enfrentan en la zona que están desarrollando. ¿Solo es la tala ilegal o hay otras actividades ilegales que tienen en la zona de trabajo? La primera pregunta. La segunda pregunta relacionado, veía que también mencionaban que hacían monitoreos de biodiversidad, de fauna, y también visualizaba algunas cámaras trampa en algunas fotos. Y con respecto a eso, si han desarrollado o tienen algunos indicadores de fauna para monitorear el bosque o cuál era el objetivo de ese monitoreo. Gracias.
All right, thank you, Pedro, for those questions. In the Matawai region where we are working in, is that throughout the traditional leaders, they don't want to have any other activities than logging. So, and this logging is all legal. And that's done the upper Saramaka River and the lower Saramaka River. You have then the mining activities, and that's much worse than the upper Saramaka River. But these mining activities doesn't entail downstream. To give clear answer on if there are any other illegal activities in the Matawai region where we are working in, up till now the rangers hasn't encountered no mining activities, just logging. The second question is the wildlife and camera trap. We started wildlife camera trap because there was a question raised by the indigenous people on what's the status. First is what is the status of our wildlife here in the our surrounding villages. So we started to collect data and check if there is a threat on their food protein source on wildlife. And because they have requested that, and they have seen that wildlife is declining in the area, and getting the university in the picture and processing those data and coming up with protocols for the community, they have found that there is not a direct threat in the wildlife diversity in the IP regions. I hope that answers the question.
Sí, gracias, Johan.
¿Aló?
Gracias, gracias, Pedro. Ahora entonces pasaremos. Sorry, I switched to Spanish. I'm going to go back to English. Now we will have Rebecca, also from Ecored. Adelante, Rebecca.
Sí, hola, buenos días con todos. Mi pregunta va más relacionada a los mismos monitores en sí. Me gustaría saber, ¿cuál fue el perfil de estos monitores? Si estos monitores, no me quedó claro si son de las comunidades o son de fuera. Bueno, su nivel de estudios, ¿cuál es? ¿Y cuánto tiempo les tomó a ustedes capacitarlos y que ellos se empoderen y puedan realizar por sí mismos las acciones que vienen haciendo? Gracias.
Hi, Rebecca. Buenos dias. Thank you for those questions. First off, we are only working with the rangers or people coming from the community. We don't bring outsiders, only the personnel from ACT, but the rangers are from the community. Their profile or the level of study is with these communities for South, we don't expect that they have a high degree in education, but we do expect that they can speak a little bit of our other language, the Taki-Taki, than only trio. We have a lot of dialects here in Suriname, and the Taki-Taki is the most the most spoken one. And so yeah, they don't have a high degree of education, but they do feel the need to do something for the community. And that is important. Their hearts in it. They can speak for their community. They want to learn. They see how it is being done. And most of the things that we are teaching there is more pragmatical. Not too much writing, just on the job, showing them how it is being done, the instrument working. And it takes a lot of energy and time. As long they want to learn and as long they are eager, they will succeed. And up till today, they have succeeded in the use of this equipment and gradually grading them up. So it is more an on-the-job training. How long it took from 2014 up till now, we are continuously in the running of training, of upgrading them on the job, being on the ground with them, teaching them everything that we know to support in data gathering, in talking with their traditional leaders, to make a map, making newsletters, everything, coming out to speak out for their community when invited to other platforms to speak for what's happening in the backlands. So it is an ongoing process. We cannot say we are finished with training, and technology also is upgrading constantly. For instance, now we have another platform on the ODK or another upgrade on the ODK. So that will be added on, but not as a new training, but as a on-the-job training. So yeah, it is an ongoing process, and as long they want, and as long they feel the need and ask for the support, we will be there on the ground to help them. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Johan. And then we have also some questions from Victor Manuel from Fundación Natura in Colombia. So go ahead, Victor, you can turn on your audio as well.
Hola, buenos días para todos. Hola.
Victor.
Aló, tengo problemas acá con el audio de mi equipo. Buenos días para todos. Gracias, Johan, por su presentación y compartir la experiencia de Guyana, muy importante para todos. Yo solo tengo dos preguntas. Una de ellas, pues, es ¿cuáles son las principales causas o agentes de deforestación en las comunidades aisladas? Si son las mismas comunidades o son agentes externos. Y la otra es si el proceso de monitoreo como tal ha generado algún conflicto en las comunidades o con otros actores en el territorio. Gracias.
In the indigenous communities, we cannot directly speak of deforestation that are a main threat of, or deforestation as a main threat. External, because you don't have any quick access to those territories. It's only by flight, and even for logging and mining activities. But with mining activities, we need to take more precaution. But for the logging activities, you need roads. So external main causes, there are none. I think it is more from within the community itself because of the agriculture lands, the shifting cultivation plots that they have. Just for an example, the village Kwamalasamutu is the biggest village and it is continuously growing. So the rangers are mapping all those agriculture land and new ones, old one, and they tend to look for more areas or to expand. So I would say yes. I think for the IPs, it comes from within the village. But in the tribal communities, it is external because of the ease of access and the logging activities that are taking place, not directly from the community itself. So the second one, I did not get that the second question of the monitoring process. If you can repeat that question again. Hello?
Victor, if you can please repeat the second question. I think you wrote it down, right?
Sí,
Let me see which
la
one it was.
segunda pregunta es si, bueno, teniendo en cuenta ya que son procesos internos de las comunidades, el establecer estos tipos de monitoreo no les ha generado algún conflicto en la misma comunidad. ¿Cómo lo han solucionado?
Okay. The monitoring doesn't in the IP is a little bit different. The support comes from the traditional leaders. So we don't have direct conflict in the IP villages as long we are clear on what's been going on the ground on gathering data. But before going further, let's just say that every year we have a work plan signed with the communities, and in that work plan it includes what they wish to do for the year, what kind of work they want to see going on the ground. So I think you can say that we have consent from the traditional authorities in the IP region that because we are working on their request for the year, we got consent to do monitoring, or the rangers are monitoring for the villages. So in this IP villages, we don't have any problems whatsoever. But in the tribal, yeah. But in the tribal community, it's a little bit different. Because of political issues and not being transparent in the activities or the permissions that the traditional authority give to third parties to make money off the land, the community itself is in constant coalition or constant argument with the traditional leader not being transparent. So yes, in that sense, in the tribal community, we have some issues that needs resolving. But the community doesn't have enough power to overrule the traditional leader, the main man. We call him here the Graman. So he listens to the community, but afterwards he is doing what he feels is right for himself, or like he said, for the rest of the community. But they don't see anything happening for them. And this issue is a process where we are trying to be more direct and be more in contact with the Gramang and continuously asking him or having sessions with him to show what are the pros and cons of the status now in Matawai, and editing more data to his arsenal of information. And we try to have an impact on that, but are not so successful as yet. Because of political issues, we had recently an election passing, and also with COVID, we did not manage for this year to set up one big meeting with with the Graman to talk about this issue, because it is a disturbing gap for the rest of the community. So yeah, we are working on it, and we are also with the government side now, trying to get the new government in this act, and foreseeing with them also, with the new government, the situation in Matawai, hopefully to make a little bit change in the political agenda of the Graman.
Excellent. Thank you, Johan, and also Victor, for the questions. We have the last question also from Paulina. So after this, we will have the round of reflections from each country. So I'll show a slide after after Paulina's last question. So go ahead, Paulina.
Thank you, Johan. You presented in the beginning that you have this work of mapping, and you have a mapping with the traditional or ancestral territories. So I have 3 questions about this. Is this mapping complete for the national level for the whole country? And I would like to know also if this all the boundaries and everything of the mapping is approved by the communities, and also if that it is somehow used by the government. I would like to know that.
Thank you, Paulina. The territorial mapping amongst the IP people, it is approved amongst them. And this map also has been a working tool for the communities to support them in additional workshop that they have on land right issues. We are now in the process of land rights for IPs and tribal communities, and they have been using these ancestral maps that they have created as supporting data. But the government half is saying that they acknowledge and see and accept it that the IP, the indigenous people, has the knowledge and capability to map their lands, and as proof that on map that is their land. And these maps are being used by the traditional leaders of the community, and also by the government in the dialogue of this land right issues.
Thank you. Also, it is at the complete, is at the national level. Everything, all the territories are mapped.
Yes, it is at national level. It is at national
Thank you very
level.
much.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Johan, again for the presentation, and thank you for everyone as well for all these interesting questions and for all the answers. So now we're gonna have our space of a reflective collection among all countries. So I'm gonna show very briefly a slide. We have done this in the previous sessions as well. So the idea is to have a round per country. You can see who from the team wants to intervene. But basically the question is, from this country experience, from these rich experiences from the Ranger program in Suriname, which elements are useful or common for the other countries? And later on, we will hear also from Braulio as a reflection from the region. So here you have the questions both in English and in Spanish, and maybe we can start from Peru, then we can go to Guyana, later to Ecuador, then Colombia, and then lastly with Brazil. So someone from Peru, Pedro or Rebecca, or someone else from the team, and it's more comments and things that you can see that are similar or common or interesting for your experience as well.
Ya, sola para comentar al respecto. Gracias por las palabras, Karen. Sí, es una experiencia muy interesante y si vemos en el fondo también guarda algunos principios con todos los proyectos que estamos relacionados en los diferentes países y por eso nos unen en el tema de Amazonía 2.0. Principalmente el involucramiento de las comunidades, de estos pueblos y la voluntad de ellos en buscar y proteger. Cosas interesantes que se han dado es que preocupados no solamente por el bosque, porque el bosque es un ecosistema que tiene muchos actores o partes, dentro de ellos el monitoreo de su fauna para saber cómo está yendo la biodiversidad en su bosque. Y gracias a Dios solamente hablaban de una actividad que era solo la tala en la zona de intervención del proyecto. Muy interesante, se suma a estas cosas, así también como las personas que participan, en nuestro caso como veedores, también tienen las mismas características y la voluntad de sumar estos esfuerzos de conservación y manejo adecuado. Y también es muy importante lo que han recopilado, la información que han levantado desde el 2006 que inician estas actividades y lo han vuelto a un mapa donde pueda visualizarse mejor y ser más sociable para poder explicar no solamente en las comunidades, sino en las diferentes reuniones que se puedan dar al respecto, ¿no? Desde ya, felicitaciones por el trabajo que vienen realizando y por la presentación de Johan, ¿no? Simplemente ese comentario al respecto. Gracias.
Excelente. Muchas gracias, Pedro. Thank you very much, Pedro. So we will continue with someone from Guyana, Michael, or someone else from the team.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everyone. Sorry if there's some noise in the background. There's some construction happening next door, so it's very loud. I really appreciate the presentation made this morning. I think it covered quite a lot, and it was very interesting to see what ACT was doing around the country. I believe that there are many things that we can all learn from each other, and I think I liked that they are using local community members as well in terms of doing the monitoring, and I think that this is one of the things that we too are focusing on, using the local persons in the communities, because we believe that those persons have the knowledge about the area where they are, their lands, their territories, and I think it is much better when we can have those very persons being the ones monitoring their communities. For us, it's what we have been focused on in terms of ensuring that monitors come from the communities themselves. I think for us, we like that the ACT was able to train those persons in the use of the tools necessary for doing the monitoring, and I think it's one of the things that we too are doing in terms of ensuring that the community members, we call them monitors, are trained to use the equipment, but not also that, but to go even further in terms of analyzing, cleaning, and analyzing the data that they would have collected. So I really like that about what ACT is doing in their communities. We believe that, again, like I had said previously, that, once, we share information, we'd be able to learn from each other. There are so many common things that we do across the Amazon in terms of the countries we're working with. But there are also some differences as well in terms of our approaches. And I know it's Suriname as well. There are some communities which are hard to get to, just like Guyana. Some communities we can only get there by air. So sometimes the cost can be very significant. And more reason why we need to ensure that it's local persons who are trained to do the monitoring. Not just that, I think for us, one of the things that we're looking into is to actually have, at least in like the main communities, some sort of communication system that we'd be able to transfer data from the ground to the city where we're based, making it easier and cheaper in the long term. Because if we are to travel to go collect data, or if the data is to come from those locations by air, then it would cost like a whole lot of money. So I think these are things that we like. The other thing is that, well, we have seen that a lot of their work, it covers it's like across the country. So it's pretty interesting that you can get data from different parts of the countries, because I think sometimes it's good to compare, even within our own countries, what is happening in the different regions. And I think this will help us to understand what and where things are happening, and what may be some of the reasons for these things happening. And in that way, we'd be able to find solutions in terms of mitigating a lot of those things. So, for example, one of the things that pops up right away for me is that in Guyana here, for example, we have certain areas where there's a lot more mining. And because there's a lot more mining there's a lot more deforestation as a result of mining, as compared to another region where there's actually logging happening, but the deforestation is not as where the mining is. So, these are things that we can compare. And it's good that I like that, they're able to be working in different parts of the countries. For our project, our aspect here in Guyana, it's specifically to the Amazon 2.0, we have a targeted area where we are working. But generally we work across the country as well. So thank you, Johan, for making that presentation. I really liked it. I'd like if you can, send us a copy of the presentation after. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael. And now we will pass to someone from Ecuador, either Carmen or Javier or someone else from the team.
Hola. Hola, buenos días a todos, todas. Gracias, Johan, por tu presentación. Muy interesante, muy chévere el trabajo que hacen de monitoreo. Me gusta bastante y me llamó la atención porque además quería como comentario mencionar que en Ecuador hacemos algo similar, ¿no? Nosotros nos enfocamos a monitorear presiones y amenazas que suceden en el territorio de la nacionalidad indígena con la que trabajamos. Y también usamos tecnología para monitorear, en este caso teléfonos, smartphones, y adaptando una plataforma que se llama ONA como repositorio, como servidor donde se alojan los registros de presiones desde el territorio, similar a lo que tú haces pero usando otras herramientas. Y me gusta bastante también y me parece interesante todo el trabajo que han hecho porque es bastante integral, se enfocan no solo en monitorear presiones y amenazas, sino también en el monitoreo de fauna, en actividades productivas sostenibles, y enfocado bastante a fortalecer la gobernanza en esos territorios. Me parece interesante, yo creo que es oportuno, digamos, en algún momento podría ser oportuno hacer como un intercambio de las experiencias, porque nosotros también tenemos esa mirada más integral hacia el territorio donde trabajamos. No nos enfocamos únicamente a monitoreo de presiones y amenazas, sino también tenemos en este caso nosotros tenemos a los veedores comunitarios, que son los monitores indígenas locales, y el trabajo de ellos se enfoca más allá también de registrar presiones y amenazas, a dar apoyo, digamos, a las familias para dar seguimiento a sus actividades productivas sostenibles, a las chacras, acompañan a las comunidades en procesos organizativos y registran también recursos del bosque. Entonces es súper interesante y veo mucho, digamos, de trabajo similar que hacemos tanto en Ecuador como en tu país. Me parece muy interesante. Te felicito por la presentación, está muy chévere. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Javier. Bueno, thank you. We will pass now to Colombia. So Cesar or someone else from the team as well. Cesar, there you are. Go ahead.
Aquí estoy yo por acá, sí. Ahora de pronto le doy la palabra a Víctor, que está ahí, o a otro del equipo, pero muchas gracias, Johan. Muy interesante la presentación y tengo aquí varios puntos para resaltar del trabajo que pueden ser interesantes para todos nosotros como aprendizajes. Uno es la nombró Javier ahora, la concepción integral que tienen, más la concepción integral de ACT, de la ONG trabajando en territorios indígenas y tribales. O sea, la presentación que hiciste inicial de los 4 puntos de enfoque de trabajo con los pueblos tribales en términos que son la gobernanza de las comunidades, ¿sí? El tema de los aspectos culturales y tradicionales, el aspecto de alternativas sostenibles y el aspecto de procesos sostenibles en el territorio, planeación, ordenamiento. Me parece que allí nos da una concepción integral de enfoque y de trabajo en el territorio que me parece muy interesante tener. Entonces eso me parece bien y eso resalta un poco el papel de las ONGs, digamos, de la manera como las ONGs intervenimos o no en los territorios. Entonces esto me parece interesante para ver allí. Un segundo punto que resalto mucho es el proceso, no tanto el proyecto. Pues tú empezaste, es un proceso de tiempo, llevan trabajando allí más de 20 años. Entonces empezaste, por ejemplo, los mapas participativos, si mal no recuerdo, los empezaron en el año 2006, o sea, hace 14 años, haciendo esos mapas participativos. Y ahorita, gracias a esas herramientas de mapas participativos que hicieron hace 14 años, pues ya tienen un conocimiento muy grande del territorio y pueden abordar otros temas como, por ejemplo, el monitoreo comunitario. Y ese proceso de mapeamiento participativo no solamente es de una comunidad, sino de todas las comunidades, y nos está diciendo a nivel nacional también, o sea, una estrategia de mapeo participativo del territorio, que es un proceso, no es un asunto, digamos, de 1 año, de 2 años o 3 años, sino llevan un proceso muy grande allí. Eso resalto interesante como temas claves de trabajo que tienen allí. Y en ese proceso de mapeo participativo, es un mapeo participativo que empieza a ubicar las comunidades donde están, pero también tiene ese tema de comunidades, pero tiene el tema de cuencas. Entonces, trabaja con las cuencas para el ordenamiento del territorio. Entonces, creo que ahí hay un enfoque muy interesante. Nosotros en lo que estamos haciendo en Colombia, empezamos también con las comunidades, pero básicamente con el tema de cuenca y de territorio grande en lo que estamos allí. Otro tema interesante que veo ahí es que el mapeo y el monitoreo y las actividades se hacen dependiendo de la comunidad. Si hay comunidades que están trabajando en el tema forestal, pues allí hay un monitoreo de lo forestal, pero son unas comunidades. Otras comunidades no tienen ese tema forestal porque no pueden acceder a él. Entonces allí se mapea fauna, territorio, o se mapea temas de agricultura, o se mapean otras cosas y los rangers, los monitores, trabajan en esos temas. Y ahí es muy importante para fortalecer la gobernanza los acuerdos con las comunidades. Entonces creo que este tema me pareció muy interesante. Y el otro tema que me parece interesante son las diferencias culturales. Nosotros tenemos unos temas de interculturalidad, pero las diferencias culturales que resaltan entre indígenas y pueblos tribales, me parece que es interesante, digamos, poderlo abordar un poquito más después en esto. Entonces yo creo que resalto como esos 4 puntos de trabajo que nos sirve a nosotros bastante. Nosotros en Colombia apenas estamos empezando. O sea, nuestros primeros mapas
de la zona los hicimos realmente hace muy poquito. Entonces, esta experiencia nos sirve para ver todo el trabajo que nos hace falta para llegar a temas como lo que están planteando. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Cesar. And now we have Brazil. Brazil, so Carol or Alda or Ana Claudia.
Olá. Olá, bom dia. Buenos dias. Estão me escutando?
Sim.
Sim, Aninha, te escutamos.
Ah, legal. Tá bom. Então, gente, eu vou falar em português, né? Mais uma língua aí para nossa reunião. Então, aqui no Brasil, né, como os demais países, temos a similaridade que se refere ao uso das tecnologias, né? Que apesar da gente ainda não ter iniciado...
Sorry, Pascual. Sorry, disculpa, Ana Clara. Agora sim, adelante.
Tá. Então, por mais que a gente ainda não tenha iniciado de fato o monitoramento, mas nós já temos as ferramentas tecnológicas desenvolvidas. E nesse momento a gente está elaborando o plano de capacitação, que é de suma importância. Um outro ponto muito importante, né, que foi até está sendo repetidamente comentado, é a questão das diferenças culturais, a importância de respeitar os arranjos, né, de cada povo, de cada etnia e de cada país, né? No Brasil, por exemplo, nós trabalhamos com 4 povos indígenas, sendo Runicuim, Madirá, Jaminawa e Manchineri, e mais a população ribeirinha. Então, isso, apesar de ser um desafio, é também uma grande conquista, né, dos projetos. Só isso mesmo. Valeu. Obrigada.
Ok, gracias. Y ahora sí iremos contigo, Braulio.
Okay. Gracias, Karen. Yo lo que quería un poco era comentar y agradecer a Johan por esa brillante exposición y la participación de todos. Creo que nos lleva a reflexionar muchas cosas. Un tema que pone en la mesa para el tema del consorcio regional. Creo que eso nos va a llevar a todas las experiencias que se vienen sistematizando con relación al tema de monitoreo comunitario. El tema del conocimiento y el manejo, ¿no?, de la tecnología. Creo que es un poco importante. Es bueno rescatar todas las metodologías de enseñanza y aprendizaje que se vienen practicando, porque tener a hermanos y hermanas indígenas trabajando, usando conceptos, manejando mapas y también usando tecnologías no es un tema de la noche a la mañana. Eso tiene un proceso. Hay muchas lecciones aprendidas en ese tema que vale la pena conocerlos, sistematizarlos y conversar un poco más al respecto. Desde una mirada regional nos interesa saber cómo se han ido dando esos procesos en cada uno de los países, y es parte de una consultoría en adelante, que parte de la sistematización también que se va a ver, ¿no? Otro tema es el tema de la calidad, ¿no?, y el uso de la información. O sea, las cosas, ¿para qué hacemos? ¿Cuál es el nivel de apropiación de esta información, de legitimidad, ¿no?, de convencimiento interno que tienen las comunidades? ¿Ellos qué sienten? ¿Para quién trabajan? ¿Están para un proyecto? ¿Cómo están usando su información? ¿Cómo se están apropiando de esa información? Eso creo que es un tema muy, muy importante, y los niveles de filtros que se pone. ¿Qué información puede salir y qué información no puede salir? Hemos visto una información diversa en fauna, hemos visto en tema forestal, otros están en minería, también de recursos agrícolas que he visto ahora, ¿no?, de elementos agropecuarios. También es importante. Entonces, toda esa información, ¿para qué se hace? ¿No? ¿Para qué se monitorea finalmente? Es un tema que es importante, tanto en el frente interno, dentro de la comunidad, de sus organizaciones, como también el uso con actores externos. ¿Para qué sirve esto? Y esto me lleva al tercer punto, que viene a ver con el tema de la articulación con los sistemas institucionales, ¿no? O con otras iniciativas que están anidándose en el camino, y cómo esto utilizamos para la incidencia, finalmente, ¿no? Entonces, eso creo que es importante. toda esta experiencia de monitoreo, quién lo hace, cómo se hace, para qué se hace y cómo se usa esa información y qué niveles de incidencia podemos hacer y a qué nivel. Hay algunas cosas que podrían necesitar la instrumentalización de una política nacional, de unas normas, otras cosas que tendrán que ver con procedimientos técnicos y con protocolos y qué sé yo. Entonces nosotros aspiramos que al final del proyecto, como una especie de salida del proyecto, cada país cuente esta experiencia, lo sistematice esta experiencia de cómo nació, cómo ese proceso se ha ido dando en el camino que no se suscribe al proyecto, como muy bien lo dice César, es un tema que viene detrás, y qué lecciones nos va dando esto, porque qué viene luego de esto, qué viene. Ahora, cómo esto lo vinculamos con los escenarios como la pandemia o cualquier otra cosa que viene, ¿no? Entonces, hay elementos de vida silvestre que no, algunos no han tenido todavía habilidades, pero tienen cámaras trampa. ¿Cómo vamos estructurando un conocimiento local, pero no solamente para que se enteren los de fuera? El tema es cómo se usa esa información. Si yo detecto tal e ilegal, ¿cuál es la acción siguiente? Eso lo reportamos, lo registramos. ¿Cómo pedimos la actuación de la fuerza pública para poder disminuir ese ilícito? ¿Cómo premiamos a aquellos que han hecho y no se ganan un problema? Tenemos experiencia en unos lugares que cuando ejercen control y llegan a niveles de evidenciar un daño ambiental, incluso identificando responsables sociales, los comuneros se han ganado un juicio y amenazas. Entonces está en juego su seguridad también personal, jurídica. Entonces todas esas salvaguardas que incluye el monitoreo también es bueno mapearlas. Finalmente creo que en el proyecto quisiéramos terminar así con esas líneas de cierre o planes de cierre en sus reportes, tener un kit, ¿no? Coleccionable país por país, cómo se ha ido dando esta experiencia y a partir de la mirada regional, qué puntos en común encontramos en términos de metodologías de enseñanza, de aprendizaje, de zonas de intervención, de uso de tecnología, articulación, estos elementos centrales y transversales que también les he estado diciendo. Una vez más, muchas gracias, Johan, por esta excelente presentación, a todos los colegas de ACT y a todos por participar. Adelante, Karen. Karen.
Excellent. Thank you, Braulio. And with this, thank you again to all the ACT team. Very interesting. And for the final part of this session, we appreciate if you can turn on your camera and we will take a group photo. We had today at one point 39 people. That is very good for the internal sessions of our cross-learning strategy. So that's excellent. Now people have left. We're 33, but anyway, 39, it's a great number. So it's great to see the teams from all of the countries joining the sessions. Okay, so we're just gonna take a photo. We had to take 2 photos because not everybody fits in one screen. Okay, so everybody, thanks Johan and ACT team. Okay, y una más.
Thank you guys for listening and for the positive feedback. We much appreciate it and reflecting back on per country and that you can see where it is linked also with our activities. Thanks again for the comments and the questions. I have also learned from those questions that was raised. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you, Johan. And remember that we have in our project, in our webpage of Amazonia 2.0, the presentations will be, the presentation that Johan made will be uploaded as well. So excellent. Thank you, everyone. Muchas gracias a todos. Que tengan un lindo día.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Pascal,
Gracias.
for the translation.
Gracias, Pascual. Te mareé full.
Thank you.
Chao. Buen día. Buen día a todos.
Gracias a todos. Un abrazo.